All right, Darryl, thank you for being here.
Thank you, bro.
On a very, 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 very special day for me and the first episode of Kicking It with Sneaker Steve. And to me, this is really special, Darryl, because me and you've had a relationship and a friendship for over 20 years now from New York. So, one, this is really coming full circle for me because I've always, in my quest or in my life, in search for the next steps in the sneaker industry, and where me and you met back in New York over 20 years ago, I've always been on this journey for sneakers and fashion. And the reason it's so special, not only because it's the first podcast episode that we're doing, but because when I left DC Shoes to come to LA, I wanted to be closer to the entertainment industry, closer to what was happening here, closer to Hollywood. And I actually moved across the street from here. So right now we're in Playa Vista, which is now what they're calling like Silicon Beach area. So the fact that we're filming at Kastner and Partners here under snkrINC, like to me is just incredible. And then you being somebody who's always been behind the lens in film as a director, somebody that I've always looked up to, from that standpoint, it's incredible for me to see that too. Like, and for you to be the first one here. So it's coming like from New York to LA right before you get back to, especially right before you get back to New York. I know you got a flight, right by LAX.
So it's perfect. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Of course. So, Darryl Phillips, director extraordinaire. I'm going to walk you through a couple questions that I've had and it's really just stories that you've ever told me. I always love your conversations. And the reason for the podcast, Kicking It with Sneaker Steve, is that I've always had incredible conversations with my friends, including yourself. And people always leave like either energized or positive. And they're like, yo, Steve, I just love talking to you. I leave pumped, I leave inspired. And I want to be able to really, one, give the audience a glimpse of those conversations and also have it where now all of a sudden I can share these stories that I get inspired by with the rest of the world. So I think that's really, really special. So we're gonna go back into like memory lane, and for the listeners, the reason Darryl's been so special, at least for me, and like, outside of you're just an incredible human being, is some of the things that you've done, like really from the beginning working with Blow Magazine and covering some of the biggest fashion events in New York from when we were like first starting, back when I had Gauzy. Like we go from back.
Olympus Fashion Week, covering all that stuff, and Project. Doing the first video reel for Project. And
which is now Liberty, and then all of a sudden like.
Yeah, Sharifa at Liberty. And
which is now Kith, a lot of people behind Kith. So
it's interesting because I forget about some of those things and just the hustle that we were putting into trying to introduce people and companies to video and telling, oh no, you need to do this. You need a reel. You guys need to be filming all of this like stuff for Olympus. And they're like, okay, cool. How much does it cost?
That's actually true, and I think that's a lot of your guys' claim to fame. You guys were like the only guys with the cameras.
Yeah.
Really,
we weren't the only ones, but.
Meaning like in the circle, if you think about it, like you guys always had the cameras early, before video content.
Yeah, definitely. Like we were kind of like rogue, didn't know what we were doing, I think first time running around with partner at the time, Ray.
Yeah.
And we just had we had a high-8 camera and we're just, we had access to stuff and we were just shooting, and sometimes it felt kind of weird shooting in moments because, now everything's social media and it's expected to capture these moments, but back then people were like, oh, what's going on with the camera? I remember DMX one time calling Ray out and saying, yeah, I see you over there with the camera, dogs. I see you over there with the camera. Don't think you're slick, bro, And then, we just had all these moments and we were like, yo, people were like, wow. So we thought people wanted to see it and we always tried to figure out a new entrepreneurial or just a new way with a brand to put video out or to convince other brands that they needed video.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I was doing some, like you said, like sometimes we forget everything that we've done because we've been doing it for so long. And I was going back and seeing some of the videos and, we're talking about just now about like even some of those first videos that you did with Kendrick, or with Schoolboy Q and like with rigor mortis and the amount of views that it's got, so when you got videos that have over 6 million views that that you've been a part of, that from a director standpoint, and the fact that, like, even looking back, I was looking back at the videos yesterday, and I was talking about like the angle where it was shot, where it's really almost like even with eye level with the sneakers, and the sneakers are so much a big part of that. We all know how big sneakers are now. You know, were you conscious of that, like back then? Like, were you like, I want to make sure the sneakers look ill, or do you think it was subconscious? Like, what do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, you know, visually you may see something and it may look cool, you know, and you say that looks cool at this angle. I think for a lot of, you know, urban videos, the lifestyle, the culture is apparent in what people are wearing, and you know, you definitely want to give that, hey, this is this person's swag, this is their look, this is how they come across. You know, I think even in that rigor mortis, Kendrick had on like he had on a red bandana print shirt. Yeah. You know, so that was also just something else that helped define him as an artist that was probably from LA or from the West Coast, you know, or, you know, that close to that culture. And so definitely him walking in that video was, we wanted to capture him walking, but Kendrick really is just like, he had this like, you know, I guess he has these ideas, these inspirations, and he's just like, yo, I just want to, you know, I just want to make sure, I want to be stepping over these guys like as if they're dead rappers. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. You know, so shooting the feet was important, but like, you know, it was just, I was inspired that he had that idea, because it was kind of like abstract. I was just like, what the hell does that have to do with this song? But that's a dope concept, because I could see almost like where he was going, like what inspires him. He's just like, I'm here to like finish this, like I'm taking people out. So, you know, that was always symbolic to me, to look back and think of when he came up with that idea to where he is now as an artist, you know, at the top. Incredible.
And, you know, another big thing, you know, and I'll mention it because it's a big part of what I want to do with this podcast is share with the viewers the fact that our relationship and our friendship, because we're more than business, we're friends for so many years. You're extended family. It's really where this has taken us in our careers. And I believe I want to share with the audience the importance of like the people that you know now, the people that they know now, really stick with them. Stick with the people that they believe that are creative or that are really doing things, because you never know where those relationships go in the future. And those people that you feel like, wow, that person's creative, or they're dope, or I like the way they think, really make sure you stay connected with them. And I think that I know one of the reasons that I am here today, even filming this and at the level where I'm at, is because I'm so conscious of those relationships and being a good person, and like you said, paying forward and having that karmic energy on high and reciprocity and giving back, because now this is why we've built such a beautiful friendship over these years. And, you know, I've been able to, through you, learn, and you, every time we talk, you always share these incredible stories with me. And like, you were bugging out right now, because you're like, Steve, you remember that? Yeah. Like, how do you remember that? You know, and that, the Brand New Guy video, I remember like that stuck in my head when you did that with Schoolboy Q and A$AP Rocky, and like the story you told me about Rocky wanting to wear specific shoes. Can you share that story with the listeners?
You know, I would say almost that you probably remember the story better than I do. But at a specific time, you know, that video was just, you know, at the time, so we had Below Hip Hop TV, and a lot of it was not only doing interviews, but doing videos with artists, you know, and on a shoestring budget, you know, and just trying to make more content and get it out there. So I remember we came out to LA, we shot part of the video in New York, then we had to shoot a second part in LA, and, you know, Rocky wanted an empty pool, you know, a house with an empty pool, and everybody sitting around the pool, and so it was just a coordination fiasco. He was busy as hell when we was here, and so we get to the pool, it's a nighttime shot, and you know, he doesn't have, they give him the bag, he wants to switch his shoes, and I think he wanted his Jordan, one of his Jordan 1s.
Yep, exactly.
You know, and so this is what, 5, 6 years ago. You know, so Now everybody's Jordan crazy again, you know, but that particular style. And so he's just like, Lou, what, like, yo, ASAP Lou, yo, what, these are the wrong sneakers, these are the wrong, what the? And so he's just so pissed off about, like, these are the wrong Jordans. So he's just like, yo, and you know, time is running out. We only have this pool for a while. It's just like, damn, you know. So I just said to him, I saw how important it was.
Yeah.
You know, I know how important image is for him.
Yeah.
And how seriously he takes it. And we have the same birthday, so I know how I feel about certain things.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so
so there was a, okay.
I know how I feel about that.
Okay.
So I was just like, look, let's just wait. Like, yo, let them go back, go home, get the right sneakers.
So that's what stuck with me, which I was like, you went through, and the listeners are not understanding like how much you had to go through to pull that off.
Yeah.
And get a pool and 50, 75 people and at nighttime and they're busy and get that done with a shoestring budget, no pun intended for the sneakers, right? And then you be like, okay, I'll wait because you don't have the right sneakers.
Well, it's not I will wait.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, and that's what I think you're good at.
Yeah.
And I try and keep it at the forefront is that it's not about us. You know, this is your video. This is something that, this has your name on it. Yeah, my director credit, whatever. But this is something that's gonna define you. Yeah. If it's whack, it could break you. If it's whack, it doesn't break me. You know, this is your face. So it's like, yo, you know, if this is that important to you, we will wait. We're doing this together.
Love that.
You know, and then team, we're gonna figure out how to cut the corner so that doesn't make that much of an imprint.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that this man over here to the right has gone through that probably 50 million times also, just trying to, you know, make something happen, and, you know, this huge boulder is in the way.
Yeah, man, that's like, that's for the culture, man. That's for sneakers and the culture. And then the shot of those Jordans you know, looked so great when you put the lighting on them. And then the video gets, it's like 9.69 million views, and you're just like, oh shit. What about if it was the wrong sneakers? What about if it wasn't his vision? You know what I mean? Like, that's when I look later and I'm just like, wow. Like, the impact of your decision making and your artistry made that happen.
Well, you know,
that's what I believe.
It's
like
chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, so if it was little B, I'm not concerned with that. You know, but this is Rocky, and it's like, yo, you saw him with 40 below Timbs. And peso, you saw him with certain things that, you know, it took work to get that look. I'm not gonna take that for granted. He's not even gonna take that for granted. He's not gonna settle, you know? So it's like, okay, before I even ask this man to settle, let's just come to like getting on the ball and going and fixing it. Let's get to the solution. And you know, none of us in hip hop are oblivious to the fact that style matters. Yeah. Or that, you know, our style is a personification, you know, it carries us forward. So,
and you know, like to me, like, and the reason why that stuck with me, Darryl, is because it's so special to see people in those situations. Because I know, you know, I go through a lot of pressure as well, and for you to have that thought process, and really, like, that's your gift. And I believe that that's why so many of these big artists really respect you in that way, is because that they'll never forget that. Because they're going through all this stuff, and it's their career on the line, like you said. And for you to be in a non-egoless fashion, step back and say, no, nah, bro, like, what do you want? We're gonna do this right, because I'm here for you. Yeah. That is where I believe is special. And actually, when I met Rocky, and I would mention them, I was like, yeah, you know, of course, we got a couple people in common. I said a couple big names. You were the only one, name-wise, this is real talk, the only one that he stopped and he was like, yo, yeah. Like, nah, Darryl, yeah. So that's just credit to you, and you might not even know that. No, yeah. And I think that's a beauty about you and your humbleness, that you don't know maybe the effect that you have on people. And I know that you're not usually used to being in front of the camera, and I think that's why it's important for people to hear your story and also see that this is why I believe it's so important. Like, to judge the people in your life, because they can change those, I think, the trajectory of your life. So me knowing you has opened up huge opportunities for me in just knowing certain people and vice versa. And I believe that's the beauty of the friendship and, you know, what we always do, you know, is like, and that's why we're here kicking it like we do.
That's true, yeah. I'm never in front of the camera. I'm never trying to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And I'm never wearing Jordans, so this is very rare.
Yeah.
occasion.
That's what, and it should be, because this is the first episode of Kicking It with Sneaker Steve, and like this is for me something very special. So it's an honor to have you here. A couple of the stories that I had that stuck with me in my head that you've told me was when A$AP Mob was going on tour with Rihanna, and they were touring, and you were just starting to really befriend them and become friends.
No, this is before that.
Okay.
Before they went on tour.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Like how it's even before that.
Yeah, I remember like things were developing. I was familiar with Rocky was, and Chase was like, yeah, why don't you come in his crib and like check this out? I want you to see these guys and see what's going on. So went to an apartment that Rocky had, and everybody was there. Yeah, and Chase Infinite, you know, and everybody's at the house, and like Yams is on the couch, and people are running around. Brock Fetch is running around taking pictures, and it was really organic. And I was just like, wow, this. So like when we left, I was hanging out in the kitchen talking to Rocky, talking to everybody. I was just like, yo, it reminded me of Wu-Tang. You know, I was like, I got that Wu-Tang energy, you know.
Did you know Wu-Tang, and like, were you around them like back then? Were you able to like film some of them?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh wow,
you know,
okay. So you really knew it.
Yeah, no,
like you've been around it, so you know.
Energy that like, it's a collective of.
And what the reason why I stopped you there is because I think it's important, like, for people to know. These instances are very special. And I stop my friends even because sometimes we don't even understand how special the things that we've been through. So like, I always make when people be like, yo, who inspires you, Steven? I'm like, Swizz. Like, I love Swizz's energy. But I've been fortunate in my career that I've been able to spend time with Swizz. So I know that. But unless you spend time with Swizz, you don't know what that feels like. You've been around Wu-Tang, which very, very few people can see. So when you were around A$AP Mob, you're like, I felt it. So that's why I said, like, that's special.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the years that we've known each other, and maybe a few years before that, there are very few artists, rappers, collectives that I haven't somehow been around, filmed, interviewed, or worked with in some aspect. Not to pat it back, because it could be in the smallest level, it could be in the biggest level.
Yeah, it's real.
But that day I was just like, yo, it reminds me of this collective energy that's in here, the egos, you know, and not in a negative way.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm like, yo, there's a lot of egos in this room, and this looks like it's gonna work, you know. And I also saw that at the time that it wasn't really, yo, this is not just about Rocky. This is about like,
it's a crew,
crew, like,
of course,
there's a lot of talent in this room, and one day this is gonna come across. So I told him that, and so going from that point, it was like early in Chase was like, yo, I just want to be able to document a lot of this. And I was like, yo, we should definitely try and get as much of this on tape. So I was just like, if I say I'm gonna do something, I'd like to try and do it. So I was around as much as possible to really try and get behind the scenes, get some really natural, organic moments. We were just starting like Blow Hip Hop TV also, just started, so it was like, to be able to, I didn't want to just tell the regular interview part of our technique, which is, I guess everybody also uses right now, is having great B-roll, having great moments that you can cut to in segues that give it like, that give the story almost like a doc feel.
Got it.
So, just spent a lot of time with them, and they just pop up. And they'd be like, yo, you here? So I remember one time I guess they were in Canada.
So hold up. So just like, I think that is like incredible to see that, like when you're able to like see those egos and see it, I think is really dope, man. Like, and then we can get into like now, so like you said, now in Canada is a little bit different. Yeah,
so now it's like, we're popping up here at this show, that show. And I'll give you a real interesting point. So this is a little sneaker twist, which is that like we go to Rocky's first show, which I think was like out of state, which was like Penn State. And we go there, and the tour bus pulls up, and this dude, he's wearing like some Raf Simons boots, like up to here, up to almost like mid-calf. And I was just like, this dude is crazy. You know, but not crazy like out of there, but I'm like, wow, he's really.
Now, what weather was it?
It was fall. It was
fall.
October. It was like
right
before the mixtape was dropping. And, you know, he just had on a leather jacket on his raps. And I was like, oh, he's taking this to a whole nother level. It's a little bit different. And everybody else, that crew, they're very particular about their fashion, you know, and about their look. So if we're talking about whether sneakers are important to them or who had what, like these are, prior to that, 2 years before that, they were probably swapping sneakers. Like, yo, let me hold those Jordans, you know, like, let me get those Rafs, or let me get these Y3s from you, you know. So that's how serious it is for them, you know. And I understood it. And rolled with it.
And it's such a big part of the culture.
But going to Canada, we showed up in
so
Canada.
Tell me about Canada,
And like, you know, I think we were in Toronto, and you know, show up and Yams is outside smoking a cigarette, man. He's just like, yo, you guys are really in Canada with us. Like, yo, you're in Toronto. Like, yo, Filth, you're ill dude, bro. Like,
rest in peace,
like,
Yams,
y'all
man.
Just drove all the
so
way
he
up
told
here.
you that. He was like, yo,
like
you're really in Canada with us.
Yeah, like, but like, y'all drove up here, and like, y'all here, and like, from there, we went to Ottawa, Montreal, snowstorm, it's blizzarding, it's crazy. And he's just like, yo, y'all really up here, like, yeah, you're ill dude, bro. You know, like, and that was the first time, like, I think we really just, like, he saw that it wasn't like, oh, we're just trying to, like, get content and keep it moving. We got, you know, it's like, there was a commitment there as to, like, I saw a story developing, you know, and that was it.
And what I thought was like funny about the story too is that you were just telling me like they would be like, oh, dope, it was great, I saw you, and then they would say like, oh, we're going over here, and you're like, nah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Or like how was that? Because I think that was really funny.
Well, it was like, you know, we show up.
Because they didn't expect it.
No, I mean, I don't think that anything that was going on in their world at that time they could expect. You know, the game started happening so fast.
Yeah.
And we were just there documenting, and it was just like, okay, oh yeah, y'all here in New York. Oh, you're in Boston. Oh, you're in Ottawa? You know, like, the hell y'all doing in Ottawa? Like, are you in Montreal with us? Like, oh, so, you know, it was almost like we're getting really documented. We're getting real coverage, but like, I can't believe you guys are really, like, almost, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, why are you following us so much? And it's like, oh, I know that you're about to, like, this is about to blow up.
Wow.
And it's going to be really key to have this.
Oh, this footage is priceless.
You know, this whole incubation period is going to be priceless to have this right now for y'all. For y'all and for me, but, you know, for a company, but for also for people to see this. Yeah. You know, the makings of this, you know, this collective and this, you know.
And is that how it turned into later the Suddenly documentary on Noisy through Vice? Is that how that came about? Like some of that footage?
That came about, I mean, I think that just us having a lot of content out there.
Okay.
And then at the same time, that was when they went on tour with Rihanna, so Vice wanted to do something.
Got it.
And I think the
that
idea
was a 5-part series on
so
Noisy.
It was a full doc, but it was also to tell the story. It was like Vice had the road. Yeah. You know, and so they had like the tour. Okay. And then it was just like, okay, but we kind of need to make this story bigger. Yeah. And Chase was always like, the story needs to be bigger. Like, you know, you guys need to go talk to this dude. Like, you need to talk to Phil or to Darryl. You know, like, we're good. And it was like, okay, cool. So it was kind of like, hey.
So Chase really saw it. Chase was like, yo, speak to Darryl.
He knew that was what we had been thinking before. Yeah, yeah. But you know, as things develop, it's like, okay, now this brand wants to do this, and da da da. It's kind of like, you know. But he didn't think, and like I definitely didn't think that it would make sense to put out something that didn't tell the full story, especially if it's available, if it's there. So you know, it was kind of like, hey, well, look, we'll show you where we're at. We'll show you some of our We'll bring in what you guys had, and let's see where we're at. And
what you brought in was
like, you know, oh. Okay. Okay. You know, oh, you have his mom. Oh, okay. You have this. Oh, you have this show, first show. You have the Fader Fort. You have this. You got. Oh, you have interview with his father. You have. You know. So it was just like, come on. Yeah. Like, let's make it bigger and better.
And that was you as a visionary. And I think going back to it, like, because you had that experience with some of these artists, you've been around all the big guys, you know, you've seen it, and you're just like, look, I have something special, and you took that risk too. Like, because you had they weren't paying you to go all there and coverage.
No, you know,
that was you paying for it.
That was, so Dave Lavin, who also is the, you know, director and producer also, and we met. So he was like, yo, I need to meet. So we met, and, you know, we're like brothers now.
Yeah.
One of the best friends, and so, and that's from there. And, you know, I said, well, why don't you come into my office? And he came into my office and checked everything out. And, you know, we just had a moment of what we always say, just like, it broke 3 years of friendship, because it was like a trust. So I'm like, yo, here's everything. Take it. And then let's worry about the creative part.
Yeah.
The paper part, the contract part, the how is this gonna work part. Let's get to that second. But let's have this trust, and let's get focused on this creative thing so we can make this.
Wow.
And so he trusted me, I trusted him, and I think through that we were able to really make a great piece. And
that's amazing.
We're still great friends to this day.
Yeah, and you introduced me to Dave as well, who's done Wong's World with Viceland, so that's a huge success. And, you know, part of it, going back to it too, and I'm gonna keep letting you know, it's like, look, my friendship with you, you continue to bring, and you introduced me to Dave and Eddie, you know, when he opened up his restaurant here in LA, the Baja. So it's like, just the nurturing of our friendship and all these incredible people that you brought me around. So, and I just want to thank you. You know, I'm grateful and in gratitude to you, you know, for everything that you've always brought to me, and vice versa, you know.
Yeah,
so
likewise, bro. I mean, you brought nothing but positivity, you know. So it's funny because I was thinking about kicking it with Sneaker Steve, and I'm like, oh, he's like, you're Sneaker Steve to me again. But like, so before we first met, I kept hearing, oh, Sneaker Steve this, and Sneaker Steve, and Gauzy this, and I'm like, yo, who is Sneaker Steve, man? And it's just like, oh. Then it made sense, and then, you know, then knowing people in common, whether it's Alyasha or whatever, you know, and learning that story, and then I think there was a certain point where, like, you became bigger than Sneaker Steve to me, you know, and I was like, yo, Steve, or Steve Patino, you know, and I'm like, I'm starting to call you by your full name to other people. I'm not referring to you as Sneaker Steve. And I'm like, nah, this guy's doing deals. This guy's an entrepreneur. Like, I'm not calling you Sneaker Steve anymore. And then it's like, now we're coming to this point where it's like, yo, you can't escape it. And it's really just that you have this history, you have this professional knowledge base that's just like, I mean, it spans sneakers to shoes to fashion. Yeah. But, you know, we're kicking it with Sneaker Steve.
And you know, it's funny because my friends, the closer they get to me, it's interesting. It's funny you said that, because the more that they feel like they shouldn't call me Sneaker Steve, because they're like, I know you. Like, Sneaker Steve is the character, but you're Steve Patino to me. So like, you know, it's like a stranger might call you Sneaker Steve.
No, I mean,
but you're Steve. Or you're just Steve, you know?
No matter how close I get to somebody, if they want to be called their nickname or whatever, I'm going to keep, you know, I'll stick to that.
Yeah.
But to me, it was just kind of like in business.
Like, I'm bigger
in business,
than the Sneaker Steve,
like,
I know.
Dude, like, I know where Sneaker Steve started from. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, he's millions of miles away from that now in a professional aspect. So it just became different to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, for me, I'll turn 40 next month. And it's really important for me to leave legacy. And my mom always said to me, she said in Spanish, she said, Steve, quédese con los zapatos, which means, Steve, stay with the shoes. So my life, I've been able to travel the whole world. I've been a part of companies that have sold hundreds of millions of dollars in shoes. I've sold to the best stores in the world. And I've lived an incredible life because of sneakers. So I'm very proud of the Sneaker Steve name. And now for the next 10 years, that's where I'm focused on. And that's where the Kickin' It with Sneaker Steve comes from, because that's where I want to focus on. I want to focus 100% of my attention, my energy, my power into sneaker culture, and really tell the story of the journey that sneakers have created for me, because I wouldn't be here without sneakers. So it's really, really special for me. And, you know, I believe, like, you know, in these stories, and it's interesting because you told me, like, all right, you know, you've seen me go way, way past as an entrepreneur, sneakers, and just business, because I'm doing deals outside of that. And thank you for that, because, you know, I really respect, like, you know, what you've seen, and that you see me in that light as well. Tell me a little bit about like, you know, outside of, you know, shooting with ASAP. I know that you've also been really big in like whether it been, you know, shooting Drake when you've done that, like when they were on tour and some of those first interviews. Was that something? Was sneakers big in that arena as well? Like when because you've been around these guys backstage, so it's more like on a bro tip or a friendly level. Is sneakers a part of the conversation at all? Like kind of like when your friends are kicking in and you're like, yo, nah, I got those shits. Yo, I got those. Nah, you ain't got those. Is it still that kind of same conversation? Yeah?
I mean, like, I think everybody, we really get it that right now, like, the shoes are what make a person, right? So right now, sneakers, so, all right, let's say when we were younger, if we're gonna be wearing something that's $350, it's gonna be a shoe, you know, and it's gonna be like, so now it's like to see kids of all economic brackets, no job, whatever, people, they have, you know, we got $400 sneakers, we got $1,500 sneakers, you know, you're running around, you know, you're seeing kids in Margiela's, you're seeing people, you know, you're seeing kids in Raf Simons, you know, and, you know, it's like you can't even have a basic sneaker right now. You know, it's your car.
Yeah.
You know,
I call it jewelry for your feet.
It's
literally your
whole
status.
Vehicle.
Yeah, it's your whole
vehicle, everything. So of course at those times, you know, I don't think, you know, these artists are really like, oh, I got those. You know, they're peeping it. Like, it's definitely a competition, you know, it's like, come on, like, oh, he came in, he had this. And a person could be thinking that in their own head, like, oh, he just killed it, he crushed it, he came in with those, you know. And, you know, so you know that conversation is going on, whether internally or outwardly with everyone else. But, you know, these are our vehicles, our cars right now. I'm not really, you know, and it's funny, we talk.
Because you're usually never in Jordans. You're usually like in some obscure Y3s from like 7 years ago, but then you're like telling me you're not a sneakerhead, but then you got Y3s and you know, like, you know, or you got a pair of like Dirk Bickenbergs on, and I'm like, dude, you're a fucking sneakerhead. Like, you got more sneaker knowledge than most people, and your sneaker closet is crazy, so like, you're a sneakerhead.
Yeah, I mean,
honorary, like I get to like do the knighting, the honorary Sneaker Steve knighting, you're a sneakerhead, you know?
Now I think my method is, or like my ideal thing is to find just good comfort. That's why I loved Y3s always, because to me they were comfortable and they were artistic. And I didn't like seeing anybody.
And you can travel, because that was a big part of it, like something very, like a movement-based sneaker. You can move in and out, travel, airports.
It's artistic, it's, you know, and it's the comfort, you can kick it off. It's, you know, you had so many versions that don't have laces, and you know, this is going 10 years back. So for me, it was just like that's a perfect shoe for me. But I never considered myself a sneakerhead because I never lust after sneakers. I'm never like, I need to get those.
Got it.
I just didn't want to see somebody else. I didn't want to see 1,000 people in the same shoes.
Got it.
And I always used to say, I was like, yo, I never want to see.
That's a very New York thing too.
Yeah,
the competition wise, you know? So you're conscious of the sneakers that you got on because you don't want to see other people with them.
Yeah.
There's a battle.
A Harlem thing, I guess.
It's a Harlem thing, yeah.
You know,
it's a battle. It's a battle.
You know, and I always felt like, oh, if I could see like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old in the same sneaker I have, I don't want that sneaker.
A 2-year-old like infant, like a baby?
Yeah. Like if they can have the same sneaker as me, I don't want that sneaker.
Okay,
I mean, obviously that's changed, you know, a little bit, but that's how I was thinking a little bit back then. Like coming up was like, that's how I kind of preserved the exclusive approach. Like
my son might battle you though.
I mean, now
like Don C's already sending them shoes, so like, you know, Buscemi just sent them a whole bunch.
No,
so
now you can't help it because because sneakers are such a part of the culture. Yeah, you know, it's like a 3-month-old can have Jordans right now. Literally, you know, even if they. I was talking
to John the other day, and he's like, "Yo, Grayson's already on the seating list from like Don C. Jordan." Like, oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, those new ones that he came out with the gold back are crazy.
I just seen a post on those. Yeah, like, Don, we're gonna have to.
I felt a little lust.
I need that. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Now, like switching it up, like let's take it to Japan. Like you were one of the first people to put me on game on Japan. You've been following Japan culture, like from interviews with like, you know, Fat O from Swagger and Phenomenon, early to like Nigo. Like you interviewing Nigo first, like first store BBC ice cream. Like I'm going like back into the archives here. Yeah. Like what was that about, and like seeing ice cream sneakers for the first time? you know, getting, you know, just in general, like what was, and you filming Nigo back then, and to see where like Bathing Ape and Nigo is now.
Yeah, I just remember when the Bape craze started happening, I was like, what the hell is everybody going crazy about? Like, it's an Air Force One bottom.
Yeah.
And it's a Star.
Or that Air Max that he did, yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell? You know, but and it was also like that sneaker was expensive.
Yeah.
At the time, it was like, yo, there was kind of like high end. But, you know, so I never really got into the Bape sneaker as much.
Okay.
But I respected it, and I respected Nico and what he's doing with Bape.
Yeah, sure, yeah, of course.
I don't even remember how I got that interview, but I remember trying to figure it out, and then somebody hooking it up.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I know what it was. Astor, I believe.
Got it.
Who was like
when he was a
my
Nike
brother
Reebok.
Was at Nike, but remember he was in Billionaires Boys Club.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
when he was doing
first
that,
year.
when he was doing the collab stuff with Reebok, I think.
Exactly, they were working at Reebok office.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he set me up with somebody, and they were like, "Oh."
And it was Mike Parker.
Yeah.
Who was there too.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, yo,
shout out to Mike.
Hooked me up with somebody, and they were like, "Well, Nigo's here, and but you probably can't interview him. You know, that would be difficult." And you know, and I'm like, no, yeah, definitely want to do that. And they're like, "Oh, but it's just in Japanese. Like we're not gonna."
You're like, no, I want that. Yeah.
I was like, no, that's perfect. I don't even want him to speak in English. I want him to be in Japanese.
Wow.
So the translator was there. So this was Blow magazine when we were doing everything on video early.
Early.
This is like 2005, 6.
Wow.
2005 maybe. And so we go to the showroom down in Soho. Pharrell's walking around in the showroom, whatever. They just opened the store.
Were you
across
cool
the
with
street.
Pharrell already, like from back then?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like I met him a few times through Astor's boy Rob. Rob was managing him and everything.
Yeah.
So, but I can't say we were like cool.
Got it.
know.
Okay.
So, Nigo comes in, and he's just got the chunky chains.
How much? What do you think that would cost? Like really? Like
what, the chains?
Yeah. What was that?
I don't know. That's a Ben Baller question. That's some.
Yeah.
That's
Because
he must
think
have
about
$1 million on his neck at least.
Wow.
I mean, those are some big chunky chains. I don't know.
Flooded.
I can't imagine it being too much faux diamond.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he comes in and you just hear this clanking, like it's the necklace is clanking, like like I think only thing that clanked like that was Ghostface plate jewelry. When he had the dinner plate with the Versace head and all of that. Yeah. So, so he's in there, and so we just started doing an interview, and so he had a person that could ask the question in Japanese. And
I saw
was
that.
Just like
yeah.
listening, so be like, okay, where did he leave off on that? Okay, cool. So I was just like, all right, man, thank you. Cool. I got somebody to translate it, which was the most difficult thing in the world.
Find a Japanese translator.
Yeah, because you have to go back. So we were doing subtitles.
I thought it was his boy. Like I thought it was his boy. Did you found a Japanese translator?
Yeah, I went to my man's wife.
That's crazy.
And she, but the subtitles, it's like almost like it's like going backwards. So like the subject, the tense is weird. I was like, damn, this is the hardest thing to make subtitles for.
Oh my God.
But in Blow, it was really key on the fact of giving people the culture for what it was. I didn't want him to try and speak broken English. I didn't want, I did the same thing with Daddy Yankee. We did an interview in Miami.
Wow.
I remember Hurricane was on the way, and I'm with Nelson, and we're down there, and we're shooting, and he wants to do it in English, and I'm like, no, do it in Spanish. And he's just like, no, my English is good, bro. Like, and I'm like, nah. I know, but I want people in Puerto Rico and people that speak Spanish to really feel it culturally.
Wow.
I'll do the subtitles. Like,
wow.
But I don't want you to speak like if this is your culture, let's preserve the culture.
Wow.
And we'll do the subtitles. We want to make people embrace the culture rather than trying to make everything so Americanized and Englished and Anglo washed out.
That's incredible perspective too, to think about that. And like, Yankee just wore Andrew Dome on tour for the whole tour, thanks to like our friend Ariel, who's a stylist. And that's incredible. I'm just gonna think about like how big Daddy Yankee is now, being #1 on Spotify and #1, like just musically in the world, most listened to ever. Like just to think about that, like.
No, he's a star. I mean, like we said, it's like you see it
Did you feel it? Did you know it? Like, I mean, back then there was like Gasolina and like all
this
that.
This was right before Gasolina blew. It was
and
like Gasolina was just simmering.
I'm Colombian, so the reggaeton, and you know, I grew up with DJ Camilo, so like, and he was one of the biggest like to break out reggaeton on Hot 97. So, like, I lived in the reggaeton clubs.
I know,
like that was me, you know.
We were running around Camilo and everything. So that was when Gasolina was simmering, and we did that. We did, and you know, we interviewed him really quickly on the beach. He wasn't huge yet.
Wow.
And I remember, you know, it was funny, we were trying to figure out how to lay it out on the page in the magazine, and there was a DJ who I won't say his name right now. And, well, I could say his name, but he's equally very important to the culture and sound, so Sycamore.
Okay.
And so we made Sycamore's picture bigger on the page than Yankee.
Got it.
And that was like an argument where I'm like, yo, what? And I'm like, yo, you making Yankee so small, and it's like, yo, bro, this is just a filler piece, and I'm like, no, and it's like, and then Sycamore's page, but you know, to not even discredit Syc at all, like he's very important for the culture, great executive right now, and but it was just funny looking back, like, yeah, we made Daddy Yankee mad small, but on the DVD and the video was a full interview.
But that was so dope. So Nigo was in Japanese, Yankees in Spanish, and like.
Did the same thing with Pitbull.
Wow.
Even when we got caught Pitbull in the city, interviewed him, knew him from back then, and you know, before, you know, just probably since 01, you know, and you know, caught him and was just like, yo, and I was like, yo, do most of the interview in Spanish.
Got it.
And you know, he was just like, oh.
With Pitt.
With Pitt.
And you know, the Cuban is really different. Like, we always bug out because the Cuban Spanish is completely different than the Puerto Rican Spanish and the Colombian Spanish, which is like.
But remember, he's in Miami, so he's got the whole mezcla, everything, like the whole. So he was just like, oh, okay, perfect, blah, 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 blah. And like, so I was like, that was important to me also.
Got it.
You know, it's like, you know, we have to preserve as much of the culture as possible, especially if we're the storytellers.
Yeah.
You know, we can't always wash it out. You know, and you know, I wanted to be able to have this thing go beyond the borders and have people in Puerto Rico be like, oh wow, this is for us. People in Mexico, oh wow, this is for us.
And it's authentic.
Did the same thing with Alexis and Fido, and you know, Kazuko Kubo, who was a snowboarder from Japan. Yeah. You know, it's just always trying to, like, you know, keep it culturally based so that their culture can really feel it as much and be supportive of our brand as well. And
like, I mean, if the fact that when you said that, you know, on the snowboard tip, and like just thinking, you were just talking about Trevor, you know, now doing Gucci Ghost. So like, so think about it, right? You know, in terms of like your career, I think is just so incredible. Like all these people that you've been a part of, you know, so like from Kendrick to A$AP Rocky to Ferg to Yams, Daddy Yankee, Nigo, Trevor, like being close to him and like, you know, just having that relationship, and now them doing Gucci Ghost and with him and the people that you've touched in terms of the culture now being the leading biggest people in the world. So, and like, how does that feel for you? You know, like, I know that you're so humble, like you do it from like just your artistry standpoint, because you're not thinking like that back then completely. You know, some of it you're thinking in the sense like, okay, wow, I've seen artists like this blow up in terms of the industry, and I want to document that. But like, just from a reflection piece for you, you know, and like, you know, us being now 20 years deep in the game, we could take a step back and look at it from a really wider lens and be like, wow, you know, like really, you know, it's incredible. I feel good about it, you know, because I've been educated throughout the process. You know, it's like educated while I knew that person, educated to also see their trajectory of success, you know, and so I think that, you know, younger cats that I'm around are always like, yo, you just gave me that advice for free. And sometimes they, you know, people are very adverse to it. You know, they want to see that your mansion or your yacht or your Benz and everything before they really take your advice. But I'm giving you a true story. And you know it's true because you see my relationship with this other person that you're like, wait, how do you even know them? And it's like, oh, well, I knew them back then. And I can tell you a little bit about how they got there if you want to listen or if you want to take some advice, because you have some of the similar qualities. Now, we've all seen a lot of stars that make it and a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful and everything. But we've seen people with equal talent, if not more talent, not succeed. Totally. All right? And to me, that's the saddest story,
So you want to always make sure that when you see that talent or you see that pot of water boiling, that you want to be able to say, like, yo, don't do this, because you actually have what it takes to make it. And when you see that not happen, it's really sad. You know, it's just like, damn, bro, person had everything, and you know. And
I think that's a big part of, you know, why I always, you know, like, keep you close to me, Darryl, no matter what. Like, even if we're on a different coast, or when I was living in China for 5 years, is because you're a real person. You know, like, you really care, you really think, and you know, if you weren't, you wouldn't even be thinking like that. You know, you're like, hey, look, I can give you this advice. You know, you introduced me to, like, now with Brick, you know, and early putting me close to artists, you know, that are breaking, you know, working with Velos, like, just all these people, you know, that you go out of your way for, because you're genuinely having real relationships. You know, like, you took your time out to introduce me to A$AP Ferg and be like, hey, look, when you want to do shoes, he's the guy. Talk to Sneaker Steve. You know, now, and these are the things that I think are really special about you, because, you know, and why, you know, just so you know, publicly, why, you know, I've been so close to you as a friend, because you just did genuineness. You know, I was thinking about yesterday, like, I saw you a couple years ago in New York. We literally ran into each other randomly by, like, Broadway and Lafayette, by
Broadway,
Supreme.
the Puck Building.
Right by the Puck Building. And we stood on the street on a construction site in the middle of, like, 6th Ave and, like, off of Broadway. And we stayed there for almost 2 hours talking. Because it was one of those things, like, it just, whenever me and you connect, there's just always this magic of, like, connection and, like, where you're at, what you're doing, you know, inspiration. And I know that now you're working on some incredible projects. I know that you've been part, not only on the hip hop side, but some really touching documentaries, on the film side, on the movie side, as well. And then I know really close to your heart is, like, the A$AP Yams Foundation. You know, where is that right now? Like, I know that you just got off the phone with Yams' mom, and, like, I commend you for that, like, how close you've been to her and the family. And, you know, we're going to do some things there too, like, whatever you need my help, I'm there for you. What are some of the things that inspire you right now? Like, where are you inspired?
I mean, I'm inspired by work every day. I would think that, like, being here is inspirational. You know, seeing you doing something new, taking it with 1,000% interest, and then opening the door. So when we're talking the other day and you're like, oh, I want you to be on, I'm like, what? Nah. Like, why you want me on the show? You know, and but the inspiration I also have is, I think that, you know, I have an addiction to surrounding myself with artists. You know, and I think that people that are going to inspire me, that, you know, hopefully I can add on something to them.
Yeah.
The foundation, you know, the Always Strive and Prosper Foundation, that came about really because, you know, spending time with Yam's mom afterwards, you know, she.
Which is the A$AP, right? Always Strive and Prosper,
yes,
A$AP Foundation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, you know, seeing her going through the mourning process, the only thing that would kind of snap her out of the depression of it was really thinking, like, how can I help others? And then when we started talking more about that, she would kind of get like, okay, well, cool, well, what can we do? You know, and having this energy about how can she help another parent, whether it's one or hopefully thousands, not be able to go through something where this impacts their life, or they lose their child. You know, and
it was crazy when you talked to me on the phone. Like, I called you the day, and his name was Steven.
Yeah.
Also, and she saw Steven coming up on your dial while you're with her, and I think you guys were going to the cemetery.
Yeah, we were.
Like, that should touch me, man. I'm like, I just put myself in her shoes. She's on her way to the cemetery, and Steven pops up. Like, I had to hang up quickly. I was like, I just send her bendiciones. I was just like, yo.
Yeah, you did. You definitely.
I was like, yo, just send her, like, love, bendiciones, and, like.
No, that was good. But I think certain things like that, you know, she'll take as a sign or as a good thing. Yeah. You know, and that's what we saw as, like.
Give me chills, man. I was like.
being able to take something and be positive about it, and then embracing the memory. Because, you know, I think we spoke one time, and I was like, you know, we have to remember that we're the ones that are actually feeling the mourning. Almost like we're almost being selfish a little bit by through the mourning process, but because that person is not feeling anything. Actually, hopefully they're in a beautiful place and they can live through us to be able to do more.
Wow.
You know, so remember them in a good way. We can't be depressed. We actually have to be like celebratory in a weird way, you know, but try and give back. So that's just been a learning process to learn the ins and outs about starting a nonprofit, figuring out, okay, well, where do we want to fit into this whole drug awareness situation? And, you know, I can't lie, I'm not a person, you know,
Sure.
I've done drugs, I do drugs, you know, and to be able to fit into that and say, okay, I do this and that, but at the same time, there's a way I can increase awareness and educate others about responsibility and how to do things where you're not threatening your life.
And I think that was so powerful when we sat down in Hollywood and we had coffee and we were like, I believe that if I'm able to educate kids more on what drugs are, because for me, I've also done drugs growing up, and I'm clean now 100%, and I'm really against it. But at the same time, I can't be a hypocrite or contradict, because I was also one of those kids that was on drugs. And you opened me up to say, well, why don't you educate kids more on what drugs are so that they know the effects, so they can control it, because you're not going to be able to control them. But if you educate them, they can make the right decisions. Yeah,
like abstinence is not a real solution, you know, for everyone or in a collective in a large part. But when we also have to look at what we define as drugs. You know, a lot of people will tell you, oh, I'm drug free, and they go have a drink. A person will sit there and talk to you about, you know, oh, people using drugs, and they'll be sitting drinking a beer right in your face, or they'll be smoking a cigarette right in front of you, or eating a pound of gummy bears, you know, so that's sugar, that's alcohol, that's tobacco, it's nicotine, you know, so we just have to be mindful, and then, you know, so we're not throwing stones. We have to be able to say, okay, well, where's the real danger come from? And the danger right now is coming from mixing and from people not knowing how things are staying in their system, how they're poisoning the system through time. And, you know, so a lot of that has been trying to educate ourselves in that process, and then learn where we fit into the whole discussion and then where we can provide solution. And then hopefully, you know, having more alternative programs to say, okay, well, let's work in arts programs, let's get into school and try and come up with alternative extracurriculars that kids can get into that, you know, they're not caught up in these other things, or they have something to pick them out. I mean, if everybody wants to ask me, from my understanding, what causes addiction is depression. And you know, what really also led me, you know, when you, one of those big points is that me sticking with sneakers and finding the passion early in my life is what led me to live the life that I have now and where I'm going, because I believe I'm just starting. I really am like super passionate about it. And depression, I believe, is a factor because you might not know your place or haven't found your path or your passion. So I think it's really important for the listeners or your kids, like, really find your passion. The more you're passionate about what you do, I believe the least depressed that you'll be. And while I remember this, you know, yesterday after doing even more of the research on you, some of the past videos, because your body of work is so extensive that I had to literally like zone in, and I was really digging deep. And, you know, with Prodigy, you know, you did his book signing like right, and his book launch, filming that right after he had come out of jail, talk about some heavy topics. And, you know, rest in peace, Prodigy. I'm from Queens, so P is a big inspiration. He was just at our offices in West Hollywood not too long ago, you know, and I just remember like having him talking about his artistry, going to art and design. I didn't know, him telling me the stories of that he did the Hennessy artwork on the jerseys. A lot of people don't know he was an artist, not only a rapper, but actually a physical, like a graphic artist. And doing a lot of that merch that inspired so much of hip hop culture and hip hop fashion. And him just, I'm reminiscing about like him asking me if he could bring a sandwich into the meeting because he had like a Subway or like a Blimpie sandwich. So it's like, you know, and then him talking about the new record and playing the record for us is just like, you know, and you having that moment with him is just like, you know, and that's really why, Darryl, I challenge you when you were like, you see why you interview me,
And I believe that after you watch 1 hour of listening to you, you're going to be like, oh shit, wow. Like I have touched a lot of stuff, you know? So we talked about a lot of deep topics and stuff. You know, it is Kicking It with Sneaker Steve. So a couple questions, you know, you are this traveler, you've been around the world. What's your, you know, one of the segments we have on the show is what's your current 3? So what is your current 3 rotation right now, sneaker-wise?
Sneaker-wise is Nike Cortez, black, leather, white check. 3 pairs of those.
3 pairs?
Yeah, just so that I could rotate.
So it's really the rotation.
Yeah, because it's just, that's one of the most comfortable shoes ever. But you always got to remember, you got to buy half a size up.
On the Cortez?
On the Cortez,
okay,
yeah.
Got
you
it.
buy Nike, half size up.
Nike execs, half size up.
I need to figure that out.
Your last are wrong.
And right now, Buscemi.
Okay.
What is it? A 170 millimeter cognac.
Nice.
Like boot.
Okay.
You know, boot sneaker. So I like that because the reason why I got it is because like a cargo boot. And I liked it, and I was like, yeah. And it was kind of like, you know, I think I was talking to Joseph I. Did
you meet John when I worked with him when we were working at DC Shoes together?
No, I didn't meet him then.
Okay, got it.
But I met him through Joseph, and then Joseph was like, nah, bro, you don't want the high sneaker, man. You don't want the high thing. You know, I said, nah, I actually like that. I like the ankle support, and I'd like to have a sneaker that's like a boot. I like a lot of Y3s that are like, you know, right below calf.
I'm gonna ask him too, because I texted John 2 days ago. He's in Milan going to Paris. He'll be on the show too. So I'm gonna ask him like what his favorites are within the collection too. You know?
Joe was like, you should get the slide. I'm like, nah, I want that. I want an all-purpose.
Got it.
Shoe, and I like to. It's funny because like now my fashion sense is just like.
And that's very much your personality. It's like all-purpose, comfort.
Yeah, I don't care anymore.
Okay.
You know, it's like.
And mind you, I'm just gonna keep bugging you about it, but you keep saying you're not a sneakerhead, but you can break down the millimeters of the names of the shoes and special colors in cognac, but you're not a sneakerhead. I just casually just want to have an $800 sneaker, just casually, or 3 pairs of a rotation shoe,
And what else is? The Jordans are very rare. I think I may have like 3 pairs of Jordans.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in J's like almost ever.
Yeah, I have a pair of 2s, 4s, and 4s.
Got it.
And my other favorite sneaker right now, rotation, actually is classic Adidas. Actually, you know what I wear more?
Yeah.
I do wear my Android Runyon.
Okay,
a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
I know it's real because I see the dirty pictures.
Yeah.
Like you show them like, yo, it's just a dog. Like I just came from Cuba. Like I tear them up.
Those are the only. I took 2 pair of Androids to Cuba, and that's all I wore for 3.5 weeks. So I do have to say my Runyon gets a lot of traction, a lot of.
Got it.
So I would say those are my 3.
All right, cool. And another segment of the Kicking It with Sneaker Steve is, if you were a sneaker, who would you be?
Damn. If I was a sneaker, I think I would be what? I would say a Y3. I just don't know what model.
Okay, all right.
Some Y3 model. Hard to say. But
now, are you a new sneaker? If I were to ask you this question another day, are you another sneaker? Does time affect what sneaker you are, or are you just that sneaker?
No, because I think of like.
I think you would always be a Y3.
Yeah.
If I
don't want to define why, like the qualities of it, but you know, the shoe is like interchangeable. You can wear it to almost anything in any situation. It's adaptable. It's clean. It's got art, but it's subtle.
It's comfy.
It's super comfortable. It's black.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, most of them are black.
Totally.
A little, you know, some colors in there once in a while, but I would say that. I definitely like that.
I think if I was a sneaker, I would be this unreleased, black, heat sealed, black zipper, EVA custom Android Dome sock runner that's unreleased. That's if you ask me now. But then sometimes I'm kind of like this acronym Presto that I got that's multiple colors. You know, I am Colombian, so it's like, you know, it's always exclusive, it's technical, it's movement, it's fashion. D, thank you so much, brother, man. I know that you got to run. I know that we're right by LAX, so that you hit the airport, but it means so much to me that you're here, and for this going full circle for 20 years, you know, of our friendship, and for you to be on the first show, going back to the roots of New York where it all started, you know, now shooting here in Playa Vista and Silicon Beach is just an honor for me. You're a friend for life, your family, you know that, and thank you, brother. And your story was incredible. Like, to hear, I know it's going to inspire thousands and millions of people around the world, man.
Hopefully, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Only you could have gotten me to do something on video, you know, not behind the camera. So I appreciate the whole team, and I think this is great. And you know, I'm glad to be once again at one of the cornerstone building blocks of something great that you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to do it, because I can this is real. Like, I can only get to stories like this because of our friendship and our relationship. So thank you, brother, for kicking it with Sneaker Steve, as always, as we have for years.
All right.
Yeah. Out.
Peace.